It's not the first problem that this country has ever come up against. It's not the first time that we as a body of believers may find ourselves in some sort of possibly difficult position. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes I hear teaching that creates fear. Now, folks, that does not come from God. God is not the author of fear, and I come against it with everything I can. If you love people, you cast their fear out. So if you've heard anything that has made you afraid, immediately dismiss it, because God didn't send it to you. Another thing, too, I hear teaching that makes us greedy. God is not the author of greed. If you hear anything that makes you greedy, dismiss it immediately. It doesn't come from God. God is not the author of hostility. If you hear any kind of teaching that makes you want to buy an AK-47, it did not come from God. Dismiss it.
Want to buy one, Gayle?
For $1. If you hear any teaching that makes you want to be isolated, it did not come from God. God sent us into the world, not to take us out of it. He'll take us out in His time. It is foolish to think that we, if the worst case scenario happens, which frankly I don't think will, but it's foolish to think that we can do either one of two things, that we as the church can gather enough goods to feed the rest of the people out there and let it be a witness. You can't gather that much good. Second, it is foolish to think that you can save up enough food in your house to survive while the rest of the world is starving. Suppose I stored up a year's worth of food and everybody else is starving and I'm looking good. Whose house you think they're going to be visiting? See? So, folks, the kingdom of God will not be made larger by the chaos. The kingdom of God is made larger by our preaching, our witnessing, and being who we're supposed to be. Now, I happen to live in earthquake country, and because of that, I can see the San Andreas Fault from my house. For that reason, we have one kind of garbage can that we seal, and we put it in the back of one of the closets that has water. It has, beans or something like that. I don't know what my wife has in that. But it's kind of an immediate emergency supply, which the government says you ought to do. It has a flashlight in it, a kind of a radio. I don't know what my wife has in it, but she put it together. And I tell people, you ought to do that, for reasons anyway. But that's about the extent to which we should go, folks. God calls us to be other-centered people, not self-centered. And out of our other-centeredness and out of our love for people, people will get to know the Lord. And I firmly believe that God is not panicking. My wife has a pretty well-stocked pantry, but she always has. And I've laid by in store as God has prospered me. I could probably go on a 40-day fast. So, there you have what I believe about that. And that's the questions.